Spring of 2022. A single email began spreading through one of television's most powerful writers' rooms. 3 years after Elisabeth Finch had left Grey's Anatomy, the truth was finally catching up with her. And what came next would be one of the most stunning frauds in Hollywood history. Elisabeth Finch was the kind of writer people loved being around. Funny, generous, deeply empathetic, the sort of person who seemed to feel everything more intensely than anyone else in the room. By the mid-2010s, she had landed one of the most coveted jobs in American television, a staff writer on Grey's Anatomy, the long-running ABC medical drama that had defined a generation. Shortly after joining the show, Elisabeth told her colleagues she had been diagnosed with synovial sarcoma, a rare and aggressive bone cancer. She described chemotherapy with devastating detail, the exhaustion, the hair loss, the terror of not knowing if she would survive. Her coworkers rallied around her completely. They supported her through every treatment. But cancer was only the beginning. Over the following years, Elisabeth told people she had survived a plane crash. She said her brother had been killed in a mass shooting. And then came the most staggering claim, that she was a Holocaust survivor, or so descended from one that the horror was viscerally, personally hers. Each story was told with aching specificity and heartbreaking detail. And each one made people love her more. Elisabeth's stories weren't just accepted, they shaped the show she worked on. Grey's Anatomy is about doctors fighting impossible medical odds. Now Elisabeth's personal battles were being written into the episodes. A story arc about synovial sarcoma appeared on the show. A plane crash was planned for a future episode. The writer's room didn't just believe her, they made space for her trauma to become the show's trauma. Elisabeth became more than a writer. She became the moral center of that room, the person everyone deferred to because she had survived the unseeable. When she spoke about trauma, about loss, about resilience, everyone listened. And everyone wanted to help her heal by telling her stories. For nearly a decade, no one questioned a single word. Then, in 2022, Jennifer Bayer, Elisabeth's ex-wife, picked up the phone. Jennifer had loved Elisabeth deeply. She had stood by her through every story, every diagnosis, every tragedy. But there was one problem: Jennifer knew the truth. Or rather, Jennifer knew there was no truth to find. The cancer wasn't real. The plane crash didn't happen. Elisabeth's Holocaust inheritance was a fabrication. And Jennifer couldn't stay silent anymore. Journalists from the Ankler, Variety, and the New York Times began digging. They interviewed Elisabeth's colleagues. They spoke with her family. They searched for any evidence of the cancer, the crash, the claims. And they found nothing. No medical records. No plane crash reports. No connection to Holocaust survivors in her family. Everything unraveled. The writer's room where Elisabeth had been celebrated learned the truth the same way the rest of Hollywood did, through the press. The people who had changed their show to honor her survival, who had written her trauma into their episodes, who had made space for her grief, they had been deceived by someone they genuinely loved. The betrayal cut deeper than the initial shock. Elisabeth was confronted. And eventually, she admitted it. In a statement in February 2022, she acknowledged that she had fabricated her stories: the cancer, the plane crash, the Holocaust connection. She said she had lied to gain sympathy and to feel less alone. She said she was deeply sorry. She offered no further explanation that made sense to anyone. Elisabeth Finch was fired from Grey's Anatomy. Her episodes were recontextualized. She was dropped by her agent. The television industry, the community that had embraced her, rejected her completely. Online, the story exploded, the most elaborate hoax in Hollywood history. The writer who had invented herself entirely. Years later, psychologists would speculate about why Elisabeth had done it. Some called it factitious disorder, a compulsive need to be seen as a victim to gain compassion. Others simply called it a lie that got out of hand, then spiraled. Jennifer Bayer never offered a full explanation. She had simply been the one brave enough to speak the truth, even though it meant destroying the marriage she had fought to save. Grey's Anatomy continued. The writer's room healed and moved forward. Elisabeth Finch disappeared from public view, and the television industry moved on. But the story remained, a stark reminder that compassion can be exploited, that the desire to help someone can blind us, and that even in an industry built on storytelling, some of the most damaging stories are the ones we tell ourselves. If you want more real stories about deception, ambition, and the cost of lies in the industry, like this video and follow our page. We've got more unbelievable true stories coming.